Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for No Time to Die, which is the 25th James Bond movie, and the 5th and final one to feature Daniel Craig in the lead role. So if you remember at the end of Spectre, James Bond and Dr. Madeleine Swann, played again by Léa Seydoux, decided to just run off together. They're a couple, and James Bond has officially retired. But of course, things can never be that easy with a former MI6 agent. So the two of them eventually get ambushed, they get away, Bond sends Dr. Swann off on her own. Years go by, and Bond is suddenly recruited by the CIA and rejoins MI6 in an effort to try to save a scientist from a new villain played by Rami Malek. It's been nearly a full month since this movie came out, and I am so late on this review, but in my defense, my October schedule was crazy. Whether it was between my day job or covering all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I just had no time to review No Time to Die. And of course I had to do Halloween Kills because it was October, it's a Halloween movie. Doing a review for No Time to Die was something that I just kept procrastinating due to a lack of time. And I kind of wish I'd reviewed this movie a lot earlier because the more time has passed, the more I seem to forget about this movie. And part of the reason has to do with the fact that I wasn't a big fan of Spectre at all. Now, as a quick recap for the Daniel Craig Bond movies, Casino Royale is fantastic. Quantum of Solace, I think, is better than people give it credit for. I mean, if nothing else, it's short. It's not even 2 hours long. Skyfall, I think, is the best of the series, and in my opinion, I thought that was a fine way to end Daniel Craig's run as Bond. It's like, okay, he's officially established as the 007 that we know. Let's reboot the series again and kind of continue from there. A soft reboot, if you will. And then Spectre came out, and I thought that was terrible. I thought it was awful, and for a while that was meant to be the last movie because it certainly had that finale feeling to it. But I imagine a lot of people, including myself, thought, wow, that's really how you're going to end this run of Bond? So they made one more movie, No Time to Die, and this is the official end to Daniel Craig's run as Bond. And it's definitely better than Spectre. But that being said, it's not all that memorable either. There are some fantastic things about this movie, don't get me wrong, and next to Skyfall, this is probably the closest the Daniel Craig series has come to feeling like classic Bond, because Casino Royale did a good job of reinventing the character for a more modern age. It was a straight-up reboot, and it worked, but Skyfall and this movie had a perfect balance of this new era of Bond and the classic era. The action is flat out fantastic, it's well choreographed, it's exciting, and the entire opening sequence, or most of the opening sequence, is filmed in IMAX cameras. And if you saw this on a true 7-story IMAX screen like I did, it's pretty spectacular. Although I have to say, it's only the opening and one other action scene that uses IMAX cameras. The rest of the movie does not. So in a sense, that was a tad disappointing, but the action despite that is still pretty great. And the movie does have more of a sense of humor about itself than the last film did. There are serious moments, and it's not a complete yuck fest, but I thought the comedy worked well in where it needed to be, and you can definitely feel Phoebe Waller-Bridge's hand in the script, because I imagine most of the comedy came from her. And it worked, especially when it comes to Ana de Armas' character. She comes across as this young trainee. This is her first field assignment. She's a little awkward, but she ends up being a complete badass at the end of the day. And for the brief time that she and Daniel Craig had on screen together, they worked well. I mean, they worked really well together in Knives Out, and I'm glad that chemistry has carried over into this film, which is a damn shame that Ana de Armas is only in one sequence of this whole movie. She pops up, helps Bond, and then she just flat out disappears. And it's also a damn shame that this movie is the final entry in a reboot, and the way the film ends, they really can't bring her back in a future series. Or maybe they could. If they carry Judi Dench over as M from the Pierce Brosnan era, then I'm sure they can bring in Ana de Armas' character for another round, because for as badass as she is in this movie and as funny as she is, she's completely wasted. The rest of the supporting cast is good as well, whether they're actors who have been in the previous films like Jeffrey Wright, Naomie Harris, and Ben Whishaw, or new faces like Lashana Lynch, who takes over the mantle of 007 since, Bond retired and that number is still active, so they gotta give it to somebody. And I've heard so many people complain about that, like, oh, you make 007 a woman. It's like, okay, first of all, they didn't turn James Bond into a woman. They just gave the 007 distinction to a woman. And at the end of the day, what does it matter? Because, again, it's just a distinction. I mean, I hate to sound like a typical millennial, but okay, boomer. Any criticism that this movie has received for being quote-unquote woke, I'm just like, get out of here. Like, you're just so jaded and you're looking for things to criticize. That being said, here are some problems I have with the movie. I mentioned before that I don't think the movie is entirely memorable. I don't think Rami Malek is that good of a villain. Rami Malek has turned into one of these actors where I don't know what to expect from him whenever he shows up. He could either be fantastic in a role or he could just be flat as hell. And unfortunately, I thought his character, it's a combination of several things. One, I don't think Rami Malek was entirely directed well, and the character that he plays is poorly written. He shows up in the opening sequence of the movie, pops up much later on, and then we don't really get a whole lot of sense of his motivation, why he's the villain that he is. A lot of people speculated that he would be Dr. No, and that's a big no right there. It just seems like this character was an afterthought. It would have been a whole lot better if they just had Christoph Waltz be the main villain again, because they introduced Blofeld in the last movie. I didn't like Spectre, and I thought Christoph Waltz was completely wasted in that movie, but this would have been a perfect opportunity to have him be the main villain once again, and no, Christoph Waltz is once again wasted. And the way this movie ends, in terms of it being a finale for James Bond, I felt like it had the same problem that The Dark Knight Rises had, where it tried a little too hard to be a finale. It didn't really feel organic, and some of the characters make incredibly stupid decisions that get them into the forced situations that they eventually get into by the end of this movie. It's not enough to ruin it for me, but at the end of the day, I still think the Daniel Craig era should have ended at Skyfall. That for me was the perfect James Bond movie of this era. This one is pretty good in its own right, and that's my rating for it, but it's just not a masterpiece. It's not among the best Bond movies. It's pretty much middle of the road for me in terms of this era. The way I'd rank the Daniel Craig Bond movies are Skyfall, Casino Royale, No Time to Die, Quantum of Solace, and Spectre at dead last. I don't see myself rewatching this movie anytime soon, especially considering that it's almost 3 hours long. But if by some chance you missed out on this in theaters or you have yet to see it, I'd say it's worth checking out. It's definitely a better conclusion than Spectre was, but it could have been a lot better. I'll just say that. And there you go, that's my review for No Time to Die. And now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? What's your favorite of the Daniel Craig Bond movies? And what do you hope to see with the franchise going forward? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my review for No Time to Die. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.